Old yellow vanilla wafers. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to make this amazing banana pudding with these things. When I went away to college, I asked her for the recipe, and she said I'd have to wait until she dropped. It's right here on the back of the box, that tricky old girl. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to whip up some of that pudding today. Tastes like okay, I guess. Problem is, I'm not really in the mood for okay, I guess. I'm in the mood for take one bite and be transported back to my childhood, only not really my childhood, but some romantic notion of what my childhood might have been if I'd grown up in a storybook, and this ain't it. No, I got a feeling that if we're gonna produce a banana pudding that truly takes us where I wanna go, we're gonna have to build it from scratch. And that's just fine with me, because, after all, this is Now, let's be clear about one thing. When Americans say banana pudding, we're not just talking about a bowl of creamy yellow goo, but rather a bowl of creamy yellow goo layered with sliced ripe bananas and vanilla-flavored wafers. It is, in fact, a curiously comforting construct with an old-world pedigree. Don't worry. We're not going far, say Christmas 1893. Why? Because when it comes to dessert, it's tough to beat the Victorians. Behold, the primal swamp of sweets from which our banana pudding crawled. First, we have the fool, pureed fruit folded into whipped cream, popular since the 16th century. Syllabub, a very old froth of sorts composed of sweet wine and cream. Then we have the tipsy cake, a slightly stale sponge cake or stack thereof. You just hollow it out and pour in the booze, sherry brandy, that sort of thing. Notice, ringed with egg custard and finished with almonds. Now, you carve that cake into the shape of a hedgehog, put some jam in front of it, and you've got hedgehog cake. Now, the trifle is the evolutionary next step, where stale cake saturated with spirits is cubed and stratified with custard, fruits, jams, and topped off with whipped cream. Although modern cooks struggle through hours of preparation to perform one today, original trifles were, well, just about leftovers. They were like dessert casseroles. Oh, and please note the glass trifle bowl, which shows off the striations. That, my friends, is the grandfather of our pudding. And yet, there are still no bananas. That's because bananas were strictly an American phenomenon at first. Even there, they didn't enter the dessert picture until shipments from the Caribbean started showing up at the port of New Orleans around 1900. They became so plentiful that folks just didn't know what to do with them, so they followed the English model and made them into a trifle: booze-soaked cake, custard, sliced bananas. Might as well pick up a few while we're here. Now, while pondering what type of banana to employ for pudding, I would love to tell you to go with some special model like apple bananas or red bananas, but truth is, the good old Cavendish is the right banana for the job. Ripeness, however, does matter. You want to go with slightly underripe specimens, okay? No big brown bruises, just a kiss of green at either end. You're going to need 3 mediums for each pudding. Now, oddly enough, these fruits of a large herbaceous flower are not the definitive ingredient in today's edible experiment. Nope, that would be... That's right, it's the wafers. When I was a kid, this box actually listed vanilla in the ingredients, but they had to take it off a few years ago when they replaced the vanilla, which comes from a pod, with a chemical derivative called vanillin, which is harvested from wood pulp, as in wood. Other cost-cutting alterations have been made since the good old days when Dad and I used to sit in the kitchen dunking these into chocolate frosting and tossing back cold shots of cow juice. They are, in fact, smaller, drier, blander, and, well, I think we better just start from scratch. Mission Vanilla Wafer gets underway with a 350-degree oven, 1 rack upper third, 1 rack bottom third. Like so many other classic cookies, our vanilla wafers will be prepared via the creaming method, which means that there are three distinct teams of software. And here we have the sugar fat team. Those always go together. We have 4 ounces, or we'll use 4 ounces of unsalted butter, 1 large chicken egg, and 3.5 ounces by weight of sugar. And you get extra points if you use vanilla sugar. You can learn about that at foodnetwork.com. Now we move to the wet team. Not a big team, but critical. 1 tablespoon of milk, whole, not skim, and 4 teaspoons of real vanilla extract, single strength if you please. Our last team, of course, the dry team, and for that we will require 7 ounces, again by weight, of all-purpose flour, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now that we have all of our software amassed, we can move into the creaming stage. For that, we will require, of course, a creaming device like this mixer. So the butter goes in, room temperature, please. It always has to be room temperature for the creaming process, or else you're just going to waste time. And the sugar go in. Now, medium speed for 2 minutes, and you're going to have to stop halfway through and scrape down the bowl, I guarantee. While that is working, let's go ahead and sift the dry goods. Now, you might ask why. Well, I'll tell you, because if you aerate all this powder, you are going to have a much easier time working this into the batter. And the paper plate, well, I like that because it's a lot easier to deliver these goods into that mixer without making a huge mess. Now, when the creaming is done, you'll know because you'll have a nice homogenized light yellow appearance. At that time, and only at that time, you can add your egg. Now we're basically making an emulsion here, and emulsions take time. So let this work. Now I'd say for about another 30 seconds or until the egg is essentially disappeared. At that point, you can turn down the speed and go for the wet works, which we have here. Those go in also nice and slow. And let them work until you basically don't see a lot of moisture still moving around in the bottom of the bowl. Then and only then, it will be time to move for your dry goods. And you'll see this is where the paper plate really comes into its own. Just bend it like this, like you're eating a hot dog, and slowly tap it in. And if stuff starts, crawling up the side of the bowl, just scrape it down with the spatula. Take your time. A 10-minute chill will make the dough infinitely easier to work with. And now is the time on Good Eats when we scoop. Start by lining 2 half-sheet pans with parchment paper and then scoop on the goods. Now I'm using a 1 teaspoon disher here as the easiest device to deliver this very sticky dough. And I usually start in the corners to kind of hold things down. And then basically build yourself a grid, 5 by 7 pieces so that you've got 35 cookies. Then just use the heel of your hand to slightly mash them down. Now in my oven, golden brown and delicious is exactly 18 minutes away. But in your oven, it may take 15 to 20, depending. Oh, and remember to rotate the pans halfway through the process for evenness sake. Now, when the cookies are done, just slide the parchments onto cooling racks and keep your mitts off them for half an hour. No, they're for the pudding. It's generally held that trifle-like banana puddings, that is specimens assembled from a cooked then chilled custard and topped with whipped cream, are favored by those living in the northern United States.
A fact which testifies to the strong British influence in our hearty, hard-working cuisine.
While in the South, where hospitality is a way of life, we prefer our nana pudding topped with a light meringue, baked and served warm.
Which, of course, reflects a strong French influence.
Well, do remember that bananas first came to the South through New Orleans and the great port of Charleston.
Which experienced a vast influx of French Huguenots during the 17th century.
Well, then explain to me why it is that the factory which makes these wafers, and which has been based for a long time in New York City...
New York City!
Yes, continues to print on the box a recipe for baked banana pudding with meringue.
Well, I believe I can answer that question. For you see, sir, the majority of the cookies of which you speak are sold in the South, where they must pander to our considerable and dare I say, superior culinary constitutions.
Oh, well, perhaps I should just have my close personal friend, William Tecumseh Sherman, come down there and teach you boys a thing or two about the name of the word superiority.
Well, bring him down, and we'll be sure to serve him a heaping helping of Southern hospitality.
Oh, well, I got your hospitality right here, you rebellious jackanapes. Come on, let's
teach you a thing or two about fisticuffs, you red-nosed rum barrel.
Rum barrel. Oh, that's it, Lee. I've had it with these slices. Come on now. Well, come back here. Where you going?
Sorry about that, food fans, but folks can get kind of passionate about their pudding. Me, I think there's room on the table for baked and refrigerator versions. Let us consider now the software. Both versions of our pudding will require dairy, sugar, eggs, and starch, as well as identical amounts of vanilla wafers, bananas, lemon juice, vanilla extract, and salt. The odd men out, a little bit of butter and banana liqueur, which we will be using in our cold version. And since that one takes a little bit longer to assemble, it's a good place to start. Although most stirred custards are cooked in a double boiler in order to protect the fragile egg proteins from overcoagulation, i.e. scrambling, we don't need no stinking protection. Well, we do, but we shall find it elsewhere. So combine 3/4 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and 1 dose of the salt, 1/4 teaspoon, in your saucier. Now, when combined, work in 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk, whisking for 30 seconds. Now, most custards eschew the use of egg whites, but I think they make for a lighter final product, at least in the refrigerated version. Now, follow the eggs with 2 cups of whole milk and whisk aggressively for another 30 seconds. Then, and only then, you can bring on the heat, medium, low. We want to slowly bring this mixture to 172 to 180 degrees. That is the sweet spot where the starches swell to their optimum swellage, and the egg proteins coagulate to the point where they will, well, be firm but not hard once refrigerated. Now, a lot of popular recipes call for simply cooking this until thick. That's not good enough. 172 to 180 if you please. Okay, 178, that's good enough for me. So kill the heat and then introduce the one ingredient on the parts list that is truly unique to this application. Butter, 3 tablespoons cut into 6 pieces. And whisk them in one at a time. Slowly melting some of the fat into the mix will lubricate the gel that we've created with that starch, making it more spreadable. And it'll also provide a lovely sheen, and of course, butter tastes good. There. Last, but by no means least, the ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract, which being mostly alcohol, boils at a relatively low temperature. So I typically hold it back until the custard is cooled a few degrees. Now, this next part's important. As the custard continues to cool, it's going to form a skin because of the starch. To prevent that, we have to eliminate surface evaporation. So, take yourself a 16.5 by 12.5 inch piece of parchment, fold over one side, then use a ruler and remove the excess piece thusly. Then just start folding the triangle over on itself 4 or 5 times until you've got something that looks like this. Measure 5 inches from the pointy end and snip off the remains thusly. And look, you've made yourself a 10-inch parchment disc, which you can apply directly to the surface of the custard. Refrigerate your custard until it drops below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. In my refrigerator, that'll take about 2 hours. Now, the wafers in refrigerator-based banana puddings often suffer a dearth of moisture, but we can fix that by borrowing a note from the trifle. This is a bottle of banana liqueur. This is 4 ounces of said liqueur being slowly poured onto 45 of our homemade vanilla wafers. Let these soak for 10 minutes. Not only will you have a serious increase in flavor, but your moisture problems, they are history. All right, with that done, we turn our attention to the 3 bananas. All right, peel and slice these into 1/4 inch rounds, and then toss with lemon juice. The acid here will smash the enzyme that teams up with oxygen and phenols to cause browning. Now, the last thing we have to build is our topping, whipped cream. So 1 cup of very cold whipping cream goes into the mixer bowl, along with 2 tablespoons of plain old sugar. Now, very slowly put the spurs to that so you don't just sling everything all over the kitchen. And in a couple of minutes, you will have stiff peaks that look exactly like this. And believe me, we'll want to use every bit of this. All right, now we build. You can, of course, use a trifle dish like this. It's pretty. But if you're like me, you'll just go with a plain old bowl in the 1.5 quart range. Now, start with just a small layer of pudding right in the bottom to just kind of hold things. That's going to be your foundation. It's no more than maybe 1/3 of a cup down there. Then start layering on the wafers, and don't overlap them too much. Follow that with some bananas, more pudding, and keep building until you have 3 layers of bananas, 3 layers of cookies, 4 layers of pudding all day, and of course, the whipped cream up on top.
Half an hour of chilling should give the custard and cookies time to cozily coalesce. In the meantime, we turn due south for pudding number 2.
Of course, it's kind of warm in the south, so we'll crank our hot box to 400 degrees, standard bake mode. Next, separate 4 eggs. Now, we're going to cook with the yolks right away, but we're going to be whipping the whites later. So I like to sequester each white as I go to make sure I don't get any yolk in it. And then you can add them back into the whole. That'll keep everybody happy. Combine 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and the very same 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt as before in the very same saucier. Now, when combined, whisk in the yolks. Since there's not as much moisture in them as before, the mixture is going to get pretty tight. You're going to have to use some elbow grease, as they used to say. Now, we're going to add our dairy. In this case, 2 cups of 1/2 and 1/2. Now, this is pretty stiff, so loosen it up first by just adding, say, 1/2 a cup. Otherwise, you're going to slosh everything all over the kitchen. There, now you can add the rest. Okay, since it contains 2 to 3 times more fat than whole milk, 1/2 and 1/2 will give us a smooth, silky texture in this version of the pudding. Now continue to whisk now over medium-low heat until you hit that magical realm of 172 to 180 degrees. Now you might be asking, why use flour instead of cornstarch? Well, cornstarch is all starch, which means, well, approximately 25% amylose and 75% amylopectin molecules. This combination is especially potent when a light texture is desired in a product that will be served cold. Flour, on the other hand, is only mostly starch, around 70%, the rest being protein, milk, sugars, and malted wheat, which is added for the benefit of yeast. And although we're not going to be using yeast here, we can certainly profit from the fact that that flavor marries well with bananas, of all things. And I always prefer flour as a thickener when the mixture is to be served warm. All right, we finally reach now 177. Good. So I'm going to kill the heat and add the vanilla extract. Just a 1/2 teaspoon. I'll just eyeball it. There. And now we build, just as before, starting with a little bit of the pudding mixture, the custard as a base. Then start with the cookies. And notice I'm not overlapping them. We need room for the pudding to kind of glue things together. Follow that with bananas and keep on building. Since the custard is still hot, the bananas will essentially cook, lending both moisture and sweetness to the whole. That is how we got away with less sugar and skipped the liqueur soak altogether. Next up, the meringue. Time to meringue. So our 4 reserved egg whites go into the work bowl of the mixer, along with a pinch of cream of tartar. That's an acid that will actually help to denature some of the egg white proteins, allowing them to whip easier. Now start this on medium speed just until it's frothy, then boost it to high and slowly sprinkle in 2 tablespoons of sugar. Keep beating until you've got good stiff peaks. Nice and smooth, like that. Any more than that and it'll be really, really tough to spread. Now, when applying to the pudding, just dump everything right in the middle and smooth it all the way to the edges until you've got a good seal. Don't worry what it looks like.
Bake for 10 minutes at 400 or until the top of the meringue is nice and brown.
Be sure to let this cool down for at least 15 to 20 minutes before you attempt to devour. And now, the moment of truth. They are both amazingly delicious. They are both completely luscious, and yet they are undeniably different puddings. It's kind of like, I don't know, dating sisters, only a whole lot safer, I imagine. Whether you were raised on Southern baked versions or trifle-esque refrigerator models, any banana pudding is possible as long as you build upon a foundation of real vanilla wafers.
Hey, new guy, those don't go there.
Well, you know, Jerry told me to get these up stacked.
Jim.
Did I say Jerry? Oh, Jim. Yeah, I meant Jim.
Jim's deli. He's got no authority over here, okay? I do.
Okay, folks, you'll have to excuse me. I think I've got a little management situation to work out. See you next time on Good Eats. Put the box back. Thank you.